Hey, what's up, everybody? BDO44 coming at you with another video. All right, so it's the day after the Lakers lost Game 5 of the first round against the Grizzlies. We are still in a position of power with a 3-2 lead in the series. And we're not happy. We're not happy, man. All of the talk that has been said is the same old truth. Darvin Ham's rotations did once again prove to be a very, very troublesome thing for the Los Angeles Lakers fan base. And we're frustrated to no end with some of the stuff we're seeing. And a part of me is so very frustrated that it was kind of hard to turn on the camera because I don't know that I have any new content to give you. I really don't. This is the same old stuff every day with our team. I was happy with the way that Anthony Davis balled out in the last game. I was happy with how D'Angelo Russell approached the game for the most part. But it wasn't a whole lot to like, man. It wasn't a whole lot to like. We overshot the three. We allowed ourselves to give up double digits offensive rebounds. And it's just one of those situations where it's like, are the Lakers serious about competing in this series, or are they serious about just extending the series itself? That's really what it comes down to. Are we interested in actually competing? Because at this point, you're in the playoffs, and it's like they want to relax. It's like they want to just chill a little bit since they got the cushion of the 3 games before being eliminated. It's like, okay, we got a 3-1 lead, so we could just come out Game 5 and do things halfway. But even in doing things halfway, the part that bothers me, that makes it look as if there's something to see here in a very different way, is the fact that we're asking LeBron James to play the center position while doing this. That's the part that doesn't make any sense at all. It's like, even if I'm, as I was telling you guys last night, even if I'm like strategizing a way to tank, if for some reason I just want to sabotage the Lakers, if I'm not intent on sabotaging LeBron James, I'm sure as hell not going to have him banging with Jaren Jackson and Xavier Tillman. Like, that's not going to be something I work into the equation, because I'm going to want to see those guys healthy, so that when I go into my next series, they're more than likely able to play 6 or 7 games. I'm not going to let them wear down in the first round. So it's like, I'm just not really sure what I'm looking at, but I know it's all stupid. I'm knowing that everybody else is talking about it. And a part of me, a very small part of me, wonders if that's the purpose of this. It's, just like any other negative bullcrap stuff that looks like nonsense to people acting like there's no problem. All that's going to do is rile up people and get them talking. Maybe I want that. Maybe that's the desired result, to get the fan base pissed off and then do some type of weird psychology that makes them have some type of weird Stockholm syndrome. Because there's not a whole lot of makes a whole lot of sense. Clearly, they're trying to run small ball to our detriment. Clearly, they don't have any evidence that it works for them, but they're doing it anyway. Okay, now why do I want that? Well, people could be betting on the games. People could be manipulating the games for their own benefit. People could be warring with one another, and one side ain't smart enough to see what the other side is doing. It could be a bunch of different stuff. But at the end of the day, we fans are watching basketball that we know isn't good. We've been watching great basketball for many years. Kobe Bryant gave us 20 years of excellence, and that's not what seems to be the real deal now. It's more about strategizing ways of getting players on certain teams and strategizing ways to be flexible enough so that could happen. And so it just looks like a bunch of garbage. I'm listening to people talk about how the Milwaukee and Miami series went, and some of the stuff that's Coach Bud was doing. And I was like, yeah, that's another tea leaf in what it is I'm talking about. So that's 3 coaches that I can count that I legitimately think messed around with their own strategy that would ultimately showcase the other team's talent. See, this is the thing, y'all. My theory is that everybody's in cahoots, all the teams, both coaching staffs. And the way that they give themselves away is when they're purposely trying to tank. Like, this is the problem. They let us see this accidentally. A team like the Rockets or a team like the Spurs, they're going to schematically put stuff on the floor that secures them a loss, which is why you can send athletes out there, tell them to run hard, and still get the desired result in losing, right? Because they do this so that they can tank to get Wembanyama or whoever for whatever. So when you see yourself go up against these teams in the regular season, if you're paying close enough attention to the game, and you know what's normal, then you could tell when teams are doing things that put themselves in a schematic disadvantage. They'll leave themselves without whatever they need, whatever the technical thing would be, they purposely leave themselves without it, so that no matter how hard people are running around, they're just a disadvantage and there's always a hole on the floor. The problem is when they're doing other stuff that they want to tank to, they do the same thing. See, that's the problem. It's hidden in plain sight, and we're just not supposed to be savvy enough to pick up on it. But unfortunately, when it comes to winning and losing, people are going to try to come to the conclusion. They're going to dig and dig and dig. Fans are going to be invested emotionally in why they're not winning. That's what people need to understand when they rig sports. If you're going to have a fan base that's as big as the Lakers, you got all kinds of minds paying attention to this stuff. You can't run a con in plain sight and expect the wide public to be brain dead. We're not all non-playable characters. That's what I'm trying to get people to understand. Just because a lot of people who are behind the scenes with a lot of power surmise the world as a bunch of idiots does not mean all of us actually are. And we're literally watching this stuff saying, are these people stupid? Because we're not. And they're playing us like we're stupid. So they must be stupid for thinking that we're stupid enough to not see this. And see, this is where my brain goes. I get offended. I'm like, yo, do they not know I'm watching? Is it doing it like you got the coaches dumbing it down defensively? You got all these talented players shoved to the back of the benches if they can't play. And I'm supposed to pretend I don't know they can play. It's like, I know Lonnie can play. It's counterproductive for me not to use Lonnie Walker and to use Troy Brown. Lonnie's better than Troy in a lot of different ways. Lonnie's better than Beasley in a lot of different ways. So if I'm trying to succeed, I'm going to look at the data that those players have given me, and I'm going to run what makes sense to me. Now, really intricate basketball scientists have given me another variable from which to work into my equation. So I'm going to work it in here. It's important that I do. Systems. A coach will be married to a system, and because a player doesn't fit in his system, he will not want that player on the floor. Even if he's better overall, he still don't fit the cog in the machine that I'm running, and I don't need guys running around not knowing what they are doing. So I'm not going to put those players on the floor, even though they give me a schematic advantage, because those players are not accustomed to what it is they would be doing. Otherwise, they would be worked into the equation. And so that's what gives these coaches the excuses to not play Lonnie Walker or Mo Bamba, because they can just tell the rest of us, well, he just doesn't fit in our system, dude. I mean, we would love to use him, but, he's just not going to slot in properly. Now our whole system's going to be thrown off because of this guy. But then they'll run some crap that does not work. See, that's the problem. You can walk away and have a mind like mine saying, yeah, you're probably right. But then when I look at what you do and I see the holes that you leave down there, I know you're full of shit. Excuse my language, but I didn't know that you're selling me some bullcrap. Because it's like, yo, but what you tried left even more holes than what it is I'm asking you to try. You see what I'm saying? They're just different holes that you can live with because of your preference of what you want to see basketball to be. And see, that's what bothers me. It's like, okay, like I was listening to Jason Tempt talk about the Lakers were forced to shoot the ball. It was like, okay, in game 5, the Lakers were going to need to make 3-point shots in order to succeed within the parameters that they created for themselves by way of the limitations that they give themselves for what it is that they decide they want to attempt to do. This is where I come from the beginning of the season. If I want Max Christie to be an intricate part of what it is I'm doing later on down the line so he can be a player now, like in the playoffs, I got to start using him back then. I don't use Patrick Beverly. I don't run a bunch of stuff that's going to be counterproductive to the development of those players, because when the season ends, I'm going to want those players in rotation so that they can help me now. Now, if I'm thinking clearly, I know that that's important. Why? Because I have depth. I got players that I want to be able to use in different situations. They're young and they can help me. They can literally help me. Since my team, beginning of the season, was bad, I needed Max Christie. Even though I didn't use him, I did. And so these are the type of things. It's like when you're smart, when you're basketball smart, more or less, you're going to put yourself in the positions to have those things down the road. You're not going to invest in no damn Patrick Beverly when you know he's going to be traded at the deadline, not over a chance to develop the young player that you ultimately may need later on. And so these are things our coach did, but would choose the wrong players to develop when he did want to develop a guy. He leaned on Troy Brown and guys that couldn't really perform as well as some of the guys you would otherwise want him to play, who just simply could play more competently than the stuff he chose. He's so eccentric on helping those overcome their struggles that he tends to lean on those who are struggling for production. And that's just a terrible way to approach trying to win, which is why I don't think he's trying to win. Now, I don't know if this man is betting on games or if his bosses are telling him not to do certain things or if he really is just genuinely believing that this stuff is going to work and then proceeds to not see it work and forget that every time he sees it. That could be a variable. Maybe he has selective memory, and every time he sees something that he chooses that doesn't work, it's unable for him to see it not working. That's the only other. Obviously, you don't see the results. That's a variable that works, right? Does that make sense? No, but it does apply as a variable that makes sense in the situation. So that's what we're saying. It's like, yo, not very much does. But at this point, I don't know that it wouldn't be in the Lakers' best interest to remove the coach before the series ends so he doesn't tank the series. You know what I'm saying? Like, I really believe that way. I'm a person who believes in preventative measures as it pertains to basketball floors. If a guy's shooting poorly, I'm getting him off the floor. If the scheme doesn't work, I'm moving on from that scheme. If the rotations is trash, then you're not going to see those same guys on the floor. I don't do that on basketball. And so I don't understand when I see professionals do it. Now I'm going to do it in the damn video game, essentially what I'm saying to you. So for me, it's like, all right, from within the parameters of what it is we were choosing to do based on a system that we're used to and married to based on the idea that we don't want to phoenix it, so to speak, and run out there without a bunch of plays. We don't run stuff that could give us the advantages necessary to succeed on the basketball floor within the confines of what it is we're doing. So we, by way of that, fail. It's like, bro, I would rather you run size out there without any plays and give them opportunities to just get offensive rebounds off of brick shots and transition buckets off of missed shots and all these different things that come when you just play street ball with a bunch of tall people. I would rather us try that against the spread the floor offense than match up without size and then proceed to see us get beat in like 4 or 5 basic basketball categories. Just so that we can lean in on an opportunity to shoot jumpers that are probably not going to fall, that we are more than likely not going to rebound. You're just leaving yourself open about 5 different ways for a chance at one singular, process of being better. I guess advantage. One single advantage. 5 holes for one advantage. And the sad thing is the advantage does not work very often. And we've tried it many times and it just doesn't. Going small just does not do anything but showcase the talent of the other team's stars. And that's what I'm trying to continue to psych myself into believing is not what's going on down there. But when I watch highlights of that Dallas game, and I always refer to it because it was on Christmas Day, so it's very difficult to forget it. We did nothing but allow Luka Doncic to run around and shoot jumpers over small people when we had bigs on the bench that could have contested those shots. We chose not to. And coach said he wanted foot speed on the floor, some bull crap, and the foot speed did nothing to deter anything that we had going on down there. And the offensive front lineups, just like in Game 5, did absolutely nothing to score points. So what you had was a defensive and offensive liability lineup on the floor as your second unit in both of those cases. And you leave it on the floor in extended minutes. If I'm not mistaken, he did the same thing on Christmas Day. It was different players because we hadn't made the trade yet, but it was the same small ball. And Luka was able to get big numbers and walk out of there on a Christmas Day night feeling good. And so for me, it's like, all right, I'm looking at us do that on Christmas, and it's undeniable. We could have done other things, but what we wanted to do, we accomplished. I look at yesterday, I say, I don't see no different. It's just what it was. And then I look over at Coach Bud and I see people saying they need to call for his job. And I say, well, isn't that not what he did too? Everybody's telling me he was doing all kinds of schematic stuff that ultimately left the Bucks looking bad. I don't know. I didn't watch it that closely, but I look at that 4-1 series win. And I'm like, in order for the Heat to overcome the Bucks with the roster the Heat had, they needed the Bucks to do some things schematically that would allow them to dumb it down so much that they could get into that situation. We all know that. That's why none of the experts picked the Bucks, because on paper, it's a damn joke. Still is. After the series ends, it's still a joke. There's no way Miami's supposed to win that series at all. Even if Giannis is out, they still supposed to be battling it out, because there's no way that's supposed to happen unless certain things happen within the confines of what it is your strategy is and how your coach handles your situation. So you could say that Bud did what he wasn't supposed to do, just like I say Vogel didn't do what he was supposed to do last year. But the reality is these organizations are behind these coaches, and I am not entirely sure after all of these different tea leaves I'm seeing all over the country that these that they're not telling these coaches to go out there and fail purposefully, and the agreement is what they're paying for. Like, literally. You know, watch the same coach do the same, 2 different coaches do the same crap. 3 different coaches even do the same crap in the same arena. It gets to a point where it's like, all right, yeah, Vogel was an idiot, Luke was an idiot, and now Darvin's an idiot. All 3 of these guys are morons and can't do for themselves what would otherwise save their jobs. They had great reputations before they got here, but as soon as they got here, they turned into absolute morons. They couldn't tell the difference between a guy being 250 pounds and 210 pounds. You know what I'm saying? It's like, these are things they're supposed to have, just stupidity that automatically just gets inherited once you put on the Laker uniform. I just am not able to convince myself of that anymore. I can't. Not after, it's been 48 hours where I'm no longer actually thinking Darvin Ham is really behind all this. It's only been about 48 hours where I've convinced myself fully that this is bullcrap on high. And a lot of people are coming together to put it together. And I'm like, look, if anybody wants to know what it is I'm looking at, just look at the defenses your coaches run in. Just tell me if you think you're utilizing your roster to the best of your ability, or are you rolling out the red carpet for the other team's star to be showcased? And then ask yourself, if you're an owner, what is it to you in the environment where everybody is either pretending to be competing or not pretending to compete with a 5-year, 6-year plan in mind to inherit all kinds of young talent? In that environment, what's keeping you from going to another owner and saying, you know, if we see each other in the playoffs, let's just extend it a couple games so we can both make our fans happy. I'll win a couple home games, you'll win a couple home games, and let the chips fall where they may in game 6 and 7. But we can work together to make sure we get this revenue. Because, again, money's the new Larry O. So that's what I think is going on. Just like owners agree to make trades, owners are agreeing to make these type of decisions with one another. I'll play a little soft defense against you guys. I'll make sure I don't play my young kid who's 270 pounds against you. You just make sure that you set your defense up right so that my guy can get down the lane and dunk a couple good times. And make sure my fans win game 3 and game 5, or game 2 and game 5, so that we can have the home games that we need necessary for our fans to feel good about investing in us for several seasons in the future. And you guys can have the same thing, and our fans will be happy because it won't be a lost season upon either of us. So I put in some trash defense, you put in some trash defense, I put in some trash rotations, you put in some trash rotations. We'll hire the coach to be fall guys, just like if it's a tank situation, and we'll fire him. Transaction secured. Everybody's happy. Just another bad coach fired for making dumb decisions, and we all happy. See, you can't go around firing Steven Silas with a great roster with the Rockets after he tanks for you guys for 3 straight seasons and have me not think things like this. NBA. You can't do that. Because I know you hire coaches just to fire them. Because that's all he was there for. That's all Byron Scott was a Laker coach for. He was here to be fired. You picked him up with the roster being absolutely terrible and then fired him for the team not performing. The roster was terrible. How could it ever perform? You hired him to fire him. He probably knew he was being hired to drive a tank. Now, I don't know that Steven Silas knew he was being hired to drive a tank necessarily, but he knew he was putting in the footwork that would allow him at least an opportunity to put the team together when they're actually good after tanking for 3-4 years. Nope, they fired him for being bad, even though the bad is what they wanted. So it's like, look, if I know you're doing that in other areas, just like I tell you I know you're tanking strategically on the basketball floor, in other areas, then I know that you're going to do it in other ways, just like you're going to do this in other ways too. The parallels are obvious. They're not hard to see. And so, NBA, please, man, because the jig is up, people like me are talking, and I'm not the only one. And so, please, devise another way to put your product out there. And I'm telling you, the best way is randomness. Let the ball carry them off the rim. Let us have our Sacramento Miami Heat series. Like, there's nothing wrong with absolute randomness, bro. I don't care that the Timberwolves face off against the Magic in the finals. I swear to God, I don't care. Because at the end of the day, every single team in this league is a blank canvas of cap space that can put together collages of anything. The Pacers could put together the best team ever if they do their thing right and everybody decides to go there. No NBA canvas is any different than any other canvas except for location and how it's being utilized. Otherwise, it's just a blank canvas ready for players to be drafted to and players to be signed on to. And if it's done correctly, any team can look any kind of way, all kinds of good, and hoist the trophy at the end. So enough. You know what I'm saying? Let's get some integrity back in here. Let's get some chance back in here and bet on that. You know what I'm saying? And those who are too chicken to bet their money on it, bet on something else. If you got to bet on something with higher odds, then damn it, get involved in something else. Don't bet on a game of chance. But see, the greed on both sides ain't going to allow us to just welcome integrity, because integrity isn't as lucrative to a lot of these people. They believe they have no faith in integrity and the ability for integrity to spread in the environment we're in. But see, that environment itself is going to change, and corruption is going to look more and more like folly to all of us as the world itself changes. And we continue to knock down corruption in other areas. Hopefully we'll continue these type of fights. So people like the NBA don't think that this is the way to behave in the marketplace, in the environment itself. You don't want to look like this, because you're going to look like a sore thumb acting this way while everybody else is doing things the proper way, getting the fruit that comes with it. It's only okay to act like this because we've allowed our world to get out of hand with people acting like this and benefiting from it, because people don't want to hold other people accountable because they want to keep each other's secrets going. This is the environment's problem. And the NBA is just carrying the torch forward. But I'm telling you, just like any other sports situation, I'm going to ask the NBA to be trailblazers and doing things the right way as an example for the rest of the world. Just like we want our athletes to be good examples for the rest of these kids running around out here, the league has to be a good example for the rest of these businesses and the environment from which crap should be put together in a righteous way. Flopping all over the floor, calling it strategy, no. And we talk about this, so I don't want to recap that again, but it's just the whole point. It's like, can we get back to being good examples for how best to do things the right way and get the results that come from that? Valuing competition, because that challenges people to be their best version of themselves and their team, and to be the best version of themselves in the mirror for their team so that they can reach those goals. And if you botch that up for the sake of money, well, then the very essence of what you're doing is the counterproductive to what it is that's ultimately what's best for those kids to learn how to be wise and not throw their lives away and all these various different things that bring you about the worst results. The NBA is, by way of how it's acting, paralleling those bad examples. The kids are going to take that crap. Other businesses are going to take that crap, and they're going to sidetrack and get different results. And that is the problem. That is the problem. So I hope that another thought will come into my head in regards to this league, man. I really do, because this conversation is 100 times over on my channel. I do appreciate everybody for being patient with me. I used to get so frustrated with my mom when I was a little kid. I'm like, don't you ever have no new thoughts, mommy? Why come you always have the same things to talk about over and over again? Now, as I've gotten older, I realize it's exactly what I've turned into. But at the end of the day, that's how it goes, man. When you start seeing stuff, you just want to see changes to the things that you see every day, that you talk about every day. It's not that you can't come up with a new thought. It's just that the world is not changing at all in regards to what it is you're looking at. It's the same thing. And because people are doing things the same way, you got the same things to talk about. And so that's really what it is, man. It's exactly what it is. But hopefully if we say it enough times, people will get it, be shunned enough to change, and then do so. And that's what I hope my voice will be. Don't be okay with doing things the wrong way just because you're benefiting from it, because you're going to be a bad example for kids in the future, and you're going to ruin the environment by way of each and every one of those kids taking your example and running with it the wrong way. This is how you become a part of a environment for which corruption takes place, because each and every one of those examples will run with in some way, shape, and form. And all of those people had an example that wasn't no good for them to take. So that's what I'm trying to say, man. You know, we control the environment, then you can start fixing the various things that happen within that environment. But as long as we're continuing to act like doing things the wrong way is going to yield us the right results, there's always going to be people within that environment doing things absolutely the wrong way. So that is what I have to say, man. Be leaders in BA, and you'll make more money in the long run. I promise you that. Salute the Kobe Minute as we approach it. Like I said, I didn't really want to break down them games too much because I just didn't believe in what I saw. This is how I break down the game. This is the determining factor of what I think helped us win or lose. It wasn't anything else. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I'm breaking it down in this way, because if you really want to know what happened, this is what happened. And that's what the NBA needs to understand that we're doing. If there was something else that would come down to the reason why we're losing, we'd find that too. If it came down to a breadcrumb on the floor, we would, there it is. You know what I'm saying? So that just is what it is. They got to get smarter about what they're doing and temper their greed so they don't ruin their overall brand in this era. You know? So that's what I got to say. That is it. BDL 44. I thank you all for watching. I'm out.